I had a miscarriage when I was 18 years old, and I didn't know until after I got my period or started bleeding, and that's actually very common, apparently. And I did not really know that that was a thing. That I didn't really think about that kind of stuff, honestly. But I remember I had like symptoms. I was having pregnancy symptoms, and I was in so much denial. It wasn't even funny. My husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, was asking me. He asked me a couple questions, and I kind of just like shot it down. I can't even remember what questions he asked me, but I remember just thinking like I didn't even realize that he noticed those things, and it kind of freaked me out. And I was just like, no, because I was terrified, because I was not supposed to be having sex before marriage, and my parents, I could not tell my parents. I was just like, there's no way. I can't go through this. And so I didn't even bother like take a test or anything. Plus it was still kind of early, and I hadn't technically missed my period. So in order for your period to be a missed period, it has to be like 2 weeks after your expected missed period. Because I have gotten my period like a week late before, but that's actually kind of within a more normal range. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that because I'm actually not an expert, but I was learning about these things and I was looking it up at the time. And so when I started bleeding, I was like, this is something just didn't feel right to me. I was shocked, and I was like, it wasn't even like the same color. This is kind of like TMI a little bit. I'm sorry, but it was not the same color as like when it normally starts out. I noticed that it was just different. It was a different period that I'd ever experienced. I was going through immense pain, and it was for like days in a row. And before, I was not really someone who got painful periods. I would maybe have like 1 day or 2 days where I would have like light cramping, mild cramping, like enough for it to hurt, but it wasn't like steadily all day. And that's what I was experiencing. And I was at work, I was a lifeguard at the time, and I had a rescue tube, and we had to hold them. And I remember I would just like firmly press against my stomach because I was like, why do I feel like I have labor pains right now? Like, it was so painful. I was like, what is going on with my body? Because I was still kind of in denial, but like, I don't know, something still felt kind of wrong to me. But I was just like, it's whatever. I got my period. That means I'm not pregnant, you know? I was like relieved. And then until one day, I was like taking out my cup, my menstrual disc, my menstrual cup. I'm sorry. And I saw a large clot. And clots are somewhat normal, but if they're like very large, they're like, actually that's not quite normal. But it was like yay big, and it was like the thickness of my finger. And I was like, what is going on? And that's when I started to get on Google and kind of Google like, oh, how do I know if I had a miscarriage? Because I was going to refuse to go into the doctor. I did consider going to a doctor, but I was like, if I could avoid it, I will, because I don't want my parents to find out. And because I'm under their insurance, I just felt like they would find out somehow. And even I was 18. I don't know. I was just so scared they would somehow find out. And so then I went onto Google, and they were like, oh, you know what? Other than, taking the actual flesh that you think might be fetal tissue into the doctor's office, you could also just take a pregnancy test. Maybe your HCG levels are still high enough for you to be able to see if you were pregnant or not. And so that's what I did. I told my boyfriend, and I was like, well, I was just say husband. I told my husband, and he was like, okay, yeah, let's get a pregnancy test. And it came out positive. And what came after is just what I just did not expect. And this is just, I remember being so in awe of God. And I remember thinking that I just don't truly understand the women, like our gift to have babies, and just how deep it is. I, for some reason, was like separating myself from the baby. I didn't even know that I had a baby. You know what I mean? I was just, unaware, but my body, I don't know how else to explain it. I don't know if anyone else is going through this right now or who has ever gone through this before, but it's like my body was mourning the baby that I did not even know about. I would have wanted this baby if I knew. I would have had to process it, because it would have been it was an unplanned pregnancy, and I was feeling a lot of shame and guilt at the time, but I didn't know truly, like I didn't actually take a pregnancy test before. And so I was just like, oh my goodness, like I don't understand why my body feels this way, because I did not have an emotional connection. And my body, I don't know how else to explain it. It was like it felt like part of me was broken, and it was like missing a baby. I wanted a baby before, but I was like, oh, I want to be a mom one day, like I really wanted to be a mom one day. But I didn't expect for it to be on my mind, where I felt like I was owed a child. You know what I mean? It was just so strange. And I was like, how could I possibly think that our bodies are really separate from our minds? I mean, it kind of showed me that our minds and our bodies are somewhat separate, because my body was like, I don't know about you, but I actually wanted this baby. I wanted to grow this baby. You know what I mean? Like, I was just in awe of God, and I had to repent, because I was not yearning for this baby as much as my body was, and I had to repent for that, because God was like, that is life that I put inside of you. You know what I mean? That is my child. You know what I mean? Like, it was just a very huge eye-opening moment for me, and I just wanted to share this, because it was just something that I could not have expected to happen to me. And I don't know if anyone else is going through this right now, and you're just like maybe confused, like, oh, I had a miscarriage, but why are my feelings, like, why is it hitting me so hard? Or, I lost my baby. Like, I can't even imagine, like, the women who knew they had a baby, and they lost theirs. And it's crazy, because every year around that same time, I would feel my body mourning. Like, it didn't feel the same as depression. It just felt like I was missing something. And it's just so wild to me that I went through that. But anyway, praying for any of you guys who might be going through something like that. I pray that the Lord keeps you and gives you peace and joy. But I just wanted to share my experience. God bless.